Good day, everyone. We are the Group 3, and our topic for this day is all about global demography. Learning objective. At the end of this lesson, students are expected to identify the theory of demographic transition as it affects global population. So, what is demography? Demography is the scientific study of human populations primarily with respect to their size and their development. Accordingly, it studies the size, territorial, distribution, and composition of population, changes therein, its components of such changes, which may be identified as natality, mortality, territorial, movement or migration, and social mobility or change status. So when we say demography, it is like the scientific detective investigating of how many people there are, where they live, and how they are changing over time. And it looks at things like birth rates, death rates, people moving around, and how society is shifting. So the key terms of this topic is the key terms are demography and demographic transition. Demographic transition theory. So according to Cohen 1995, the demographic transition is used to describe and explain the movement of birth rates, death rates, and population growth. So this theory suggests that every country passes through the three different stages of population. So in the first stage, the birth rate and the death rate are high and the growth rate of population is low. In the second stage, the birth rate remains stable but the death rate falls rapidly. As a result, the growth rate of population increases very swiftly. So in the last stage, the birth rate starts falling and tends to equal the death rate. The growth rate of population is very slow. So let's discuss the first stage. So what is first stage? So the country is backward and is characterized by high birth and death rates with the result that the growth rate of population is low. People mostly live in rural areas and their main occupation is agricultural based. There are few simple, light, and small consumer goods businesses. According to Wicks 2008, the tertiary sector consisting of transport, commerce, banking, and insurance is underdeveloped. All these sectors are responsible for low incomes and poverty of the masses. Large family is regarded as a necessity to augment the low family income. Children are an asset to the society and parents, and more children in the family are also regarded as an insurance against old age by the parents. So, in this stage, the society is not expected to educate them, thus, it burdens itself. The existence of the joint family system provides employment to all children in keeping with their ages. People are being illiterate, ignorant, and superstitious, and fatalist are unfavorable to any methods of birth control. Children are regarded as God given and destined, and being childless is regarded as a curse, and the parents are looked down upon by the society. So all these economic and social factors are responsible for high birth rate in the country. So along with the high birth rate, the death rate is also high due to non-nutritional food with a low caloric value and lack of medical facilities and any sense of cleanliness. So during this stage, people live in dirty and unhealthy lifestyle. As a result, they are disease-ridden and the absence of proper medical care results are in high mortality risk.
Stage 2. Economic growth lead to increased productivity, transportation advancements, education, income rise, and improved food quality. However, the birth rate remains stable due to increased employment opportunities and life expectancy. Couples often fail to regulate family size due to religious doctrines and social taboos, resulting in a high birth rate despite advancements in medical facilities and modern drugs. So, ang So, ang economic growth di ay nag-bring about positive changes such as increased productivity, better transportations, improved education, higher income, and better food quality. But despite these advancements, the birth rate remains stable, possibly because of increased employment opportunities and longer life expectancy. However, some couples may not regulate family size due to religious beliefs and social taboos, leading to a high birth rate despite access to advanced medical facilities and modern drugs that could that could potentially help control birth rates. Let us now proceed to stage 3. Fertility rate decreases leading to population growth rate decline. As growth increases momentum and income level rise, standard living improves. Top growth sectors expands output through technical transformations while education infuses society, promoting self-discipline, rational thinking, and future analysis while breaking old customs and fostering individual spirit development. Delayed marriage, declining childbearing desire, acceptance of family planning methods, and increased specialization due to the growing income levels make raising a large family costly and inconvenient. The declining birth rate and low death rate are causing a decline in population growth in developed countries, leading to slow population growth. So, the fertility rate decreases, economic growth and income level rise, technical transformations in growth sectors, education impact on society, changing social norms impact on birth rate, and low death rate are the combined effect of economic growth, educational advancements, changing societal norms, and increased specialization contributes to a decline in population growth in developed countries. That's all for my report. Next reporter, please.
The Malthusian theory of population. In his 1798 work, An Essay on the Principle of Population, English cleric Thomas Robert Malthus proposed that populations increase in geometric progression, where the common ratio is a fixed number, and food production increases in arithmetic progression, where the difference between consecutive terms is constant. Malthus argued that population control through preventative and positive checks would balance food supply and population levels. Positive checks or negative checks. He supposed that natural forces will correct the disparity between the food supply and population growth in the form of natural disasters such as floods and earthquakes and man-made actions such as conflicts and starvations. Preventative checks. To correct the imbalance, Malthus suggested using preventive methods to regulate the growth of the population. This process include family planning, late marriages, and celibacy. Criticism of the Malthusian theory of population. Number 1. Population growth. The despair and fate forecast placed forward by Malthus have not manifested. In Western Europe, populations have grown, not at the rate Malthus predicted, and food manufacture has also risen because of technological developments.
So, in continuation of the criticism of Malthusian theory of population, we have food production. So, the food production has dramatically improved over the past century. This is due to the technological innovation, and frequently, the food manufacturer rate has grown higher than the population growth rate. So, for example, during the 1930s in the US, 25% of the population worked in the agricultural sector while the total GDP was less than $100 billion to the GDP. So today, less than 2% of the population works in the agricultural sector while the total GDP is over $14 billion. So in the Malthusian theory of population, Thomas Robert Malthus proposed that while population grows geometrically, food production increases only arithmetically. So he believed that this was due to the limitation in the amount of arable land available for food production and the difficulty of increasing food production beyond a certain point. So Malthus theorized that because there will be a higher population than the availability of food, many people will die from the shortage of food. He suggested two types of checks for population growth: the preventive check and the positive checks. So, however, this theory has been criticized for its oversimplified assumption and its failure to consider technological advancement in agriculture that can increase food production. So despite Malthus' prediction, the world has been able to increase food production significantly through improvements in the agricultural techniques and technology. So next we have global trade. So Malthus' theory of food production restriction was largely grounded on the inadequate availability of land. Because of globalization, people can trade goods and services for food, which raises the volume of food a country can consume. However, as one aspect of the Malthusian theory does not account for the effect of global trade. Because land is limited, Malthus assumed that food production could not grow beyond an arithmetic rate. But thanks to the globalization, we can now trade goods and services for food. So this results in a rise in the amount of food that a country can consume. In other words, global trade allows countries to import food and other agricultural products from places where they are abundant or can be produced more effectively. So this has the potential to increase the overall food supply and mitigate some of the limitations that Malthus identified in his theory.
Calculation. Furthermore, economic process like globalization is found to be associated with a demographic transition. Lacrosse, Mason, and Abe, 2003, argue that in East Asia, globalization promotes modernizing force, which encourage lower fertility. Gray, Kittleson, and Sanholz, 2006, provide large empirical support that globalization is directly associated with women's empowerment. Gray et al., 2006, also find that ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, is associated with decreased female life expectancy, reduced female illiteracy, a greater proportion of females in the labor force, and more female representation in parliament. The figure below shows the population of Asia and the world in terms of urbanization. It is projected that by the year 2030, population in the world cities would reach 50 billion out of the 83 billion world population. Urbanization trend of the world is then projected to reach 60% by 2030. This implies the localities, whether in Asia or all over the world, are all leading towards urbanization.
Hello everyone, so I am Flora Belmalayan and let's continue the discussion. So my topic is all about the populations of the Asia and the world. So the pictures below shows us the populations of Asia and the world in terms of urbanizations. It is projected by the year 2030, populations in the world cities will reach 50 billion out of the 83 billion world populations. Urbanization's trend of the world is then projected to reach 60% by 2030. This implies that localities, whether in Asia or all over the world, are all leading towards urbanizations. Okay, the next is the urban populations and level of urbanizations by region 2007 and 2010. This table shows us the Philippine Statistical Authority PSA 2010 reported that the level of urbanizations in 2010, or the proportions of urban population to the total populations, was 45.3%. This means that of the 92.3 million populations in the Philippines in 2010, 41.9 million live in areas classified as urban. The rural populations, or those who live in areas classified as rural, numbered 50.5 million and accounted for 54.7% of the total population. As apart from National Capital Regions, which is NCR, which is completely urban. In 2010 and 2007, there were 4 regions, namely Region 3, Region 4A, Region 11, and Region 12, which had a level of urbanizations higher than the level of urbanizations for the entire country, which was 45.3% in 2010 and 42.4% in 2007. This indicates that urban populations and the level of urbanizations of the regions are directly proportional. Human resource is a contributing factor to the progress of a nation. So this table is the latest data that PSA.gov.ph has on urban populations and label of urbanizations by regions. And thank you.
So good day everyone. So today I'm going to discuss about the effects to global population. So here are the effects to global population. So first is, as an increased level of trade provides people an incentive to have fewer children, and as birthful people are able to devote more time to acquiring human capital and pursuing other productive activities. And also, prosperity increase as people have less children. But moreover, some research results provide a new and interesting clues as to why international trade reduces likelihood of conflict. So by pushing down birth rates, a higher level of trade relieves population pressure on the environment and reduce size of youth population. Environmental pressures are large. Youth population increase the likelihood of conflict, both internal and external. So, by relieving this pressure associated with the birth rate, international trade depressed likelihood of the conflict, but also the rapid growth of population in the poorest country hinders economic development, condemns children in poor countries continue poverty, and threatens global stability. So to alleviate this issue, providing developing countries access to international market is the one way to relieve population pressures and promote development. Future work can study the effects of other forms of globalization like foreign direct investment and migration of the birth rate. So those things that I stated are the effects to global population in terms of globalization.